So after the PFA Awards last night, you know what I mean, Isak spoke and he said the following. I'm proud to be recognized by my fellow professionals with a place in the PFA Premier League team of the season for 24-25. First and foremost, I want to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle who are supporting me along the way. I'm not at the ceremony tonight with everything going on. It didn't feel right to be there. I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed me to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really being said behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made and the club know my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now and why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself. So I was like, yo, let's dissect that, man. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a bit juicy, right? But obviously, this is like Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? Like Drake did his thing, and then Kendrick came back with his own bars. You feel me? And then obviously,
you're doing too much, though, man. You're doing too much.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it. And then obviously, Newcastle have come out response saying we're disappointed to have been alerted to a social media post by Alexander Isak this evening. We are clear in the response that Alex remains under contract and have no commitment to have ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle this summer. We want to keep our best players. We also understand players have their own wishes and we listen to their views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle Football Club, the team, and our supporters in all decisions, and we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee these conditions being met. This is a proud football club with proud traditions, and we strive to retain our family feel. Alex remains part of our family and will be welcomed back when he's ready to rejoin his teammates. Biz, I'll start off with you, man. First of all, like, what do you think of Isak's statement? And was he justified in making that? And then, like, obviously, then Newcastle's response, man. But what are you saying, bro? Is it mad? Is it free Isak or what?
Bro, look, I said this last week when I think the Newcastle fan, Pete, I believe he was here, and I said, this is how, look, everyone's got their version of the story, okay? Yeah. Everyone's got the version. This is how I see the version of this story. And Saeed said the exact thing last week as well. I believe, and it's not like this is something I'm just saying out of thin air. This has been well documented. David Ornstein has come out publicly way back in March talking that this player wants to leave. And then he also mentioned he actually wanted to leave. He gave Newcastle a time frame that, hey, last season will be my final season with you guys. Now, you have to ask yourself the question, why is David Ornstein? A lot of people will say, oh, David Ornstein's lying. What does he know? Why is he going to come out publicly and say something like that about a player that is looking to, like, what benefit does he get out of it? He's not just, I always say the particular saying, where there is a little bit of smoke, there's a little bit of fire. Do you know what I mean? You see a little bit of smoke, there's a little bit of fire there. So the way I look at it, Saeed, is that I'm very certain off the back of what I've seen on social media and what I've read and whatnot, Isak definitely has had a conversation last summer. Now, the problem is, who did he have the conversation with? Because whoever he had the conversation with maybe are not present anymore at Newcastle, or maybe they are not the ones that are, putting out these statements from Newcastle's on behalf. But whatever the case he said, Isak must have had a conversation with his agent. His agent then had a conversation with some representative at Newcastle. And there must have been some sort of an agreement verbally that, you know what? Okay, this season, get us to is your internet moving mad or something?
Is that your twin? Is that your twin? There's two of you.
It's your twin. Oh, can't believe you, Saeed.
It's evil Saeed, man. Evil Saeed.
Right, Saeed and Raid.
Carry on.
Yeah. So somewhere along the way, some sort of verbal agreement must have happened, and the season has happened, and now it's not. Look, if you look at how Newcastle were moving as well at the start of the summer window, they were going for targets. They were going for João Pedro. They were going for Iketika. They were going for Sesko. They've failed. They've miserably failed, and now they've come to a situation. They're like, oh shit. Yeah, we kind of did promise this guy that he can leave, but you know what? I don't think he can anymore because we've not landed anyone. And this player has been getting smashed left, right, and center by the fans. He's been made to look like a villain. The ultimate situation is Newcastle. You've failed. You've failed to acquire a player. And now you're falling into the whole situation that you're not going to let this player go. And, this whole statement that Newcastle's come out with as well, Saeed, it's almost saying that they knew that he wanted to go, but now they're saying, certain terms have not been met. Well, you're putting a price tag of 150 million. Liverpool's obviously going to negotiate with you. Liverpool's not going to pay the 150 million. Exactly. They know your player wants to leave. So your statement, Newcastle, that you've come out with, it's kind of saying you are aware the player wanted to leave. So what the player has kind of said is somewhat vindicated. That's how I look at it.
Also, go on, Wolfie.
I disagree completely. It's still very, for me, black and white. Conversations or not, he signed a contract. He's got 3 years left on his contract. Newcastle, neither he or Newcastle have said what that price is. What we know from what we've seen around is 150 million. No one's offered the 150 million. End of discussion. If Liverpool had gone in with 150, Newcastle would have accepted and it'd have been gone. So I don't get why this hatred towards what Newcastle have done. Why would Newcastle undersell their biggest asset for less than the value they've put on him? It doesn't need to be any deeper than that. And Newcastle, I'm actually quite pleased with what they've done. They've stood their ground. They're not going to get bullied by Liverpool. They said, it's very simple. Liverpool, pay 150 or shut up. Why is it more of a conversation than that? If Liverpool had offered 150 million 2 months ago, he'd be wearing a red shirt right now.
I'll tell you why it's more of a conversation. It's because, and this is no disrespect to Newcastle, right? If this was one of those top tier clubs, right? I'm talking about globally, then I could understand the stance on that club that, hey, you know what? We're the ones who are running the show here. You listen to us. Newcastle needs to understand. And once again, I reiterate, no disrespect to any Newcastle fans. By them doing this, are they winning here? Because the player is going to decide, I'm not going to play for you. I am not playing for you. So I don't understand Newcastle. What are you gaining from this situation? Because all of these players you're going for, this is not a good look. This is, you can't even land a target. You think now in the future, big players are going to come and join Newcastle, knowing that this is what may happen to them down the track, that they may get locked up. Newcastle needs to know the food chain. The food chain is, yes, you have an asset. That is huge. I get it. But you need to compromise now. You need to let go of this asset and you need to collect the money and go and invest. Because in the food chain and globally, you're not that big at the moment, Newcastle. You're moving like you're Real Madrid. Real Madrid could do that to a player. And that player would shut their mouth up.
No, but Miz, how do you become the giant in the food chain? You become the giant by doing things like this. You become the giant. Newcastle are trying to become the giant, aren't they? So you become the giant by telling the big clubs you can't you can't buy our main guy. That's what you do.
No, you can't because
what does Newcastle get? What does Newcastle get out of this deal? Say they keep him. Say they keep him. This player doesn't want to play for him.
No, but what they gain is to keep their best player that they want at their club. That's what they gain.
If he's not allowed to play,
he's not going to play for them.
He will. He will play.
Exactly. He's going to hold bench for 3 years. You're
So
talking
maybe
about
January.
food.
So January.
Yeah, but you're talking food chain.
play.
Isak needs to know where he is on the food chain as well. He is not bigger than Newcastle. Like you running with any player. Let's just say, I don't know, D at Arsenal, or let's choose a different club. Let's say Everton, Braithwaite, for example. This happened with Man U and Everton last season. Braithwaite, Man U wanted him in the summer. Everton held out. Why should clubs have to be forced to accept less just because a Big Six team comes in?
Yeah, I
Newcastle have set their price on him. Newcastle have set their price on him. What you're missing here is I haven't seen anywhere where Newcastle or Isak have come out and said, we agreed on 100 mil. If Newcastle had agreed with Isak on 100 mil and they're holding out for 150, then you can hold smoke at Newcastle and say you're getting greedy.
That's what the problem is. That's the point. If he's saying that in the statement, right, he's saying, yo, promises were made. And that he's got his side of the story. Newcastle have got theirs. You get me?
Do you know what I've seen? Apparently, the person that promised him this is no longer at the club. This is where the confusion comes in.
What was promised? We're all speculating about what was promised.
I'm not sure. To be honest, none of us know what was actually promised. Only Isak.
But the player has come out and said something was promised. Are we going to say the player's lying now?
Newcastle basically said that.
What if 200 million was promised? We don't know. We don't know. Here's the bottom line. If Isak wasn't so stupid, he would have put a release clause in his contract when he signed it. This is still on him. Why didn't he say, I must have a release clause? I am confident in my ability that in X amount of years' time, all these big teams are going to want me, and I want a release clause in there for 130 mil or whatever. He didn't do that. Guys, he signed the contract. He signed the conditions of that contract.
The contract, your feelings change after a while, innit? Like, I get the side contract. Everyone would sign a contract for 5 years. You don't just sign it for 18 months. You know what I mean? I don't want. That's
why did he put a release clause in it?
No, but I get that. But at the same time, all I'm saying for me when I look at it objectively is that Newcastle are in a very, very sticky situation now because they can't really spend money for a striker unless they somehow sell Isak. We've seen it.